Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. And, not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is an amazing way for you to exit highly appreciated primary homes, businesses, real estate, cryptocurrency, eliminate the need for the 1031 exchange so you can create and preserve more wealth. Hey, we're also streaming on Expert CRE Secrets podcast as well. Each episode, we're joined by some of the best real estate, financial, wealth, and business minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. And he's ranked number one ranked residential broker with Sotheby's International Realty, providing high-level fiduciary services, specializing in single-party seller representation and marketing to the wealthiest audience in the world. In fact, he was nationally ranked in the top 0.1% by the Wall Street Journal, ranked number 8 in Southern California for Sotheby's International Realty for 2021. He's also got a best-selling book. It's called Seller Mistakes, and so much more we're going to be talking about today. Please welcome to the show with me, Michael B. Bell. Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Brett. Thank you very much for having me. This is exciting.
Absolutely. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Sure. I'm in Pasadena, California, which is just north of downtown Los Angeles. I've been selling real estate for about 23 years, and I primarily only represent sellers. And we'll talk more about the book and how that came about. But I sell homes, a lot of them.
Excellent. And Michael, I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and these gifts have been given us to be a blessing and help to others. And some people call them strengths, some people call them superpowers. But I want you to go back in time, maybe it's your high school days, earlier days, and people start to maybe identify or speak life or speak. These are some strengths that you have. So I'm curious, what are those 1-2 strengths that you believe you were given, and how does it help how you help and bless people today?
In terms of real estate, I firmly believe people want to be led, and oftentimes a realtor is hired and as a tool. And really, we're not tools, and neither are you. Your audience wants to be led. And so I take that leadership role very seriously. And sometimes it's not everybody's style. And sometimes somebody just wants to push around a realtor and tell them what to do. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm the kind of guy that's going to push them into the right direction and explain why. And I learned that early on, that people want to be led. And that is my mentality. That's what I think, actually. And frankly, when I walked into the front door of a house, I tell myself they want to be led. And if they don't want to be led, maybe I'm not the right fit for them.
Got it. So leadership. So maybe leadership at a young age, or just knowing to take charge. There's a whole saying that says you can't push a rope. You got to get out in front and lead. So is that a fair summary so far as the strength there?
For the most part, yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Well, let's dive right into how that and how this can apply to providing high-level fiduciary services. The industry, to be top of your industry and what you've done for so many years is incredible. So what's the number one secret to providing high-level fiduciary services?
Well, I think really the main thing is you want to avoid mistakes. And there's a lot of common mistakes that people make. And unfortunately, most of them never realize they make it. And it's these mistakes that have been driving me crazy for my whole career. And my real quick story about this book is I got upset about how the industry was telling us certain things to do, which really were not serving the client. It was really serving the realtor in terms of generating leads. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about open houses. I'm talking about real estate signs. I'm talking about mailers and door knockers and all these things that realtors do that make a lot of people think that's just part of what you're supposed to do to sell a house. And you'd be shocked to see what the statistics are. So I started doing research on all of this and finding that a lot of the stuff that the agents are doing, you just froze up. So I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Still here. Keep going. Just
Okay.
the video might have to catch up to us in a couple seconds, but keep going.
Got it. So I started writing what's called a white paper, and some folks that may know about those, it's kind of like a research paper. And I love statistics. I love data because it doesn't lie. And found that not only were, for example, open houses almost completely ineffective, they're incredibly dangerous. And so I started writing a research paper. I met a guy who is a publisher, and he said there's a great book there. And I thought, well, I'll write a book. So it took me 5 years to write a book. And if any of your listeners are out there listening and thinking about writing a book, let me tell you, it is hard. It's a lot of work. I never want to do it again, but the results has been fantastic. I was hoping to sell 200 books. I sold 38,000 books. It hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller list last September. It was number 3. I've never written a book before. It's just, and it's really taken off. And I think it's because there's been a real thirst for this kind of information, because it's out there, but it's not really out there. The real estate community knows these numbers, but we don't really tell people what the true effective is of a lot of their actions. For example, we just talked about open houses, and open houses have about a 3% effectiveness rate, but most home sellers believe that you have to do open houses like crazy to sell your house. But guess what? If you're a real estate agent, you want to do open houses, because guess who comes to open houses? Potential sellers, looky-loos, and neighbors. Real buyers don't really go to open houses. Now, they will go to open houses, but if somebody really wants to buy your house and there's no open house, trust me, motivated buyers will make an appointment.
Makes sense. Okay, so the number one secret is avoiding the mistakes of maybe the conventional thinking of certain things that are going to be effective for sellers. So really giving them what's the meat, what really works. And one of those, for example, is open houses. Is that a fair summary so far on the first secret?
That's one of the many secrets, yeah. And just to go back, it's funny that I think your audience would appreciate this. The working title of the book was High Level Fiduciary Sales. And for folks that understand what a fiduciary relationship is, it's a very high level relationship that you have with a client. It's the same type of relationship a doctor has to his patient and an attorney has to his client or her client. And but it's kind of a boring title. So I just focused on seller mistakes. And one of the first mistakes in this book, and I'll show this book. It's not trying to sell the book, but I'd be happy to give it away for free too if anybody wants to reach it. I'm not trying to sell books. Let's just put that out. I want to get the information out there, and it's on Amazon. But one of the number one things you can do to make sure you don't make mistakes is hire a really good top agent. Same in your business. There's a lot of folks. I don't think there's that many folks that do what you do. There's just a lot of realtors out there, let me tell you. But you really have to hone in on the number 1 or number 2 in your marketplace, because usually they'll avoid all the mistakes that the common realtor makes.
So hire the best is secret number 2, right? Don't settle for those that aren't as experienced, those aren't as proven. Pick and find the best. That fair summary for secret number 2?
That could be number 2. One of the other secrets is what's called avoiding dual agency. And avoiding dual agency means, it may sound really good when your realtor has buyers for your house. The real estate agent comes to your house and says, I already have a pocket full of buyers. I already have buyers that want to buy this place. Let's just work with them. Big mistake. Big mistake. I'll tell you why. If you want to get market price, and most people want to get market price, because market price is the highest price you can get for a property. There's no such thing as over market price. That just doesn't exist in the universe. But if you want to get market price, you really have to put your product out into the marketplace. It doesn't matter if it's a car, a house, or a watch. If you want to get market price, you're not getting market price if you go with the realtor that already has a buyer in their pocket. And that's what's called a pocket price. In our industry, the jargon is pocket listings or a pocket buyer. You want to avoid that. And what's interesting is that there's 5 states in the United States that do not allow dual agency. It's such a bad part of our industry, but there's all these other states, including California, that allow it. And the argument is in our legislature is that it's not fair that if a buyer really wants to buy a house, that they shouldn't have to go down to the stationery store and get their own contract and negotiate for themselves. They should be able to call the agent that's on the real estate sign and be able to go directly. Now, that's a smart argument in a way, but if you look at it, in California, 1 in 42 people in the state of California has a real estate license. It's not a shortage of real estate agents. You can always find representation out there. Now, let me ask you this, like attorneys, in every state, they're not allowed to represent both sides, two parties, right? It's a conflict. It's the same thing in real estate. However, it's legal as long as it's disclosed. I tell people just stay away from dual agency. You'll make more money. You'll probably get a better bidding war if there's going to be a bidding war. But that's a big mistake a lot of people make. They allow their agent to represent a buyer on their transaction.
Got it. So avoiding the mistakes of just the general knowledge of marketing properties, like such as open houses being super effective, or certain things that maybe aren't as aren't as much bang for your buck, and the time to focus on what buyers and where to find them. Maybe that's the first one. Number two, hiring the top agent, making sure you're not making that mistake of settling for less agent. Number three, avoiding dual agency as much as you can. What would be what was the most surprising secret? Like, as you did the research, like you didn't necessarily think of it, but as you did more and more, well, it was like, wow, that's just surprising to me. I've been in the industry for 20 plus years, and you're like, but that one really stuck out as something that during the research. Anything come to mind there?
They're all kind of surprising. One of the surprising things was really the open house, because look, we're in September of 2022. We just got through this pandemic. There was a 9-month period in the United States where open houses were effectively against the law. In that 9-month period, we saw more price appreciation and more sales than in the history of our country. Now, they took open houses completely out of the equation, but things still sold. How did they sell? They sold because people, we're on the internet age. I tell clients all the time, your first showing is on the internet. Your second showing is the validation showing when they show up to the house. You need to nail that first showing. And you need to have good photos. You need to have a floor plan. You need to have the right description, the right words. You need to have a drone photo. Sometimes a drone photo is bad if it shows your neighbors. If your neighbors have junk in the backyard, maybe a drone photo is not the way to go. Or maybe you can't really see much of the house because there's just too many trees, and a drone photo is not going to help you anyways. But I thought it was really shocking about the open houses. And also, what's incredible about open houses, get this, 49% of the realtors that do open houses do them armed. They're either armed with a gun, a taser, a knife, or pepper spray. 49. Can you imagine having a job on a Saturday or Sunday, feeling so unsafe that you've got to bring a weapon, and you're probably not even telling the owner that you're doing this? Because quite frankly, if you listen to the local news, there's almost every week, there's a story about how somebody got, there's problems at open houses. Thieves go through, if I'm doing an open house, and I've only done 6 open houses in the last 23 years. So some people think I'm the laziest realtor in the world. I think I'm the smartest. But I have no idea who's coming into the house. And oftentimes the folks that are stealing, it'll be a husband and wife and maybe a kid, and this is just their MO. This is what they do. You got to be really careful. So I explain to the client the effectiveness of an open house, and also explain to them that as far as I know, throughout the United States, there's not one brokerage that provides insurance for open houses. So I explained to them in California, the California Association of Realtors listing agreement it says in there that the brokerage does not provide insurance for if somebody steals something, somebody falls and breaks their leg, whatever may happen. And
yeah, I think that's great insight. It all makes sense, right? And the things that we take, I think we take for granted because it's just kind of been the status quo. So that's interesting. So we, anything else to add as far as maybe just right now, relevant stuff right now, Michael? And this is all relevant, but I mean, even more so given that the market's shifting now, right? We're seeing a transition, although you're in Pasadena, La Cañada, higher end. Like, give us a sense of what you're feeling and seeing with the marketplace right now, with increasing interest rates, with prices, and maybe what you're doing to help your clients, have that competitive edge, even in a shifting market.
Well, here we are. That's a great question, and it's a question I get every day. Now, I just had a breakfast with an appraiser this morning, and my answer to him was, buyers think it's 2023 and sellers think it's 2021. There's a bit of a disconnect. And here we are in mid to late September, and things have been really slow. And has it been slow because the media has been telling everybody not to buy? Has it been slow because the media has been telling everybody that interest rates have doubled? But they haven't really told you that interest rates are really kind of normal right now, historically normal. And guess what, Brett? It takes 2 to 3 to 4 or 5 months to sell a house. That's normal. Everybody thinks the norm is to sell it in 2 to 3 or 4 hours and have multiple offers. Things are just different. I think we're just going back towards a normal marketplace, and where we're going to have to work a lot harder and a lot smarter. And the value of an experienced agent is going to be even more paramount. And we have agents right now that are leaving the marketplace because they figure, well, the gravy train is over. When in fact, I think, I say this in my book, I think the best time to get into the real estate market, if you're going to be a realtor, is when the market goes down. You're going to hone your skills. You're going to really understand the market. You're going to understand buyers and sellers. And when the market goes back, you'll do very well. But there's a lot of agents that do great in a down market, or even in a market that's kind of like, I guess it's in transition, but it's kind of stalled out a little bit. If I was going to read the tea leaves to answer your question, it's going to be really interesting. Look, everybody, it seems like on earth, has refinanced their house under 3%. If they're going to buy something now, they have to pay 6% or more. Their property taxes are going to be going up, going through the roof if you transition to another property. And we're talking about, really even an investment property. So we have to have job losses to have foreclosures, but everybody's got equity. I mean, there are some marketplaces, and it all depends. We all like to use the word depends. For example, in Boise, Idaho, that was the frothiest market in the last 3 years. But there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that said that 63% of all the listings in Boise, Idaho had a price reduction since April of this year. So Boise is different than Los Angeles, is different than New York, it's different than the small town in Kansas. It really kind of depends. Los Angeles is in a basin. There's really not a lot of places that it can expand. And we have a different kind of economy here than a lot of other places. So I don't foresee anything, unless there was something cataclysmic that happened. I don't see how values are going to go down that much. But
really well said. Talk a little bit about California and maybe the mass exodus, or maybe it's a little bit played up or hyped up. What's your feel for people, selling and getting out of state? What's the temperature there? Is it increasing? Is it about the same? Is it just media with a big spotlight on it? What's your take on that?
I think there's definitely people that are kind of tired of what's going on in California, and they are making the move, realizing they can be more virtual. I mean, even myself, I don't go to the office anymore. I can do all my work in my car and a laptop. So I kind of feel, unfortunately or fortunately, I have to. I'm here. I have to be here. I would love to be in Boise or Spokane or something like that, but I think a lot of people are coming back to the cities, and the secondary markets are having a little bit of a pushback right now because people are realizing, geez, I'm going to get laid off if I don't come to work. I mean, that's what Tesla's doing. Elon Musk told everybody, if you don't come back to work, you've lost your job. That's his way of doing layoffs. And we're seeing that more and more. So there are an awful lot of variables. It's really kind of hard to figure out. But at the end of the day, this is what it's one of the things I like to point out. There's a lot of people that'll say, I'm never going to buy, I won't buy a house right now. It's a bad investment, or I can't get the write-offs I want, or it's just bad timing. But what's interesting is the National Association of Realtors, they do these surveys, crazy surveys, they ask a million questions, and they find what makes people want to buy a house. And the top 10 reasons that people buy a house has nothing to do really with tax benefits or really investment purposes. It's life events. They're getting a divorce, they're getting married, they have a kid, kids are going to college, parents are moving for a job. I mean, these are all the reasons why people really buy. So it's hard to fathom that the market's going to go down because people think it's a bad investment. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
That's great insight. I love the way you put all that, and it's not a simple answer for California and the movement of everything, and the life events and everything that's going on, and then let alone there's the housing crisis, right? We have so many deficits in housing, and it is different than 2008 in that
Yeah.
these have been qualified. The banks have been doing a good job, it seems like, qualifying people, and there's a lot of equity there. So it's a lot of differences there, nuances, and every single market's going to be a little bit different. So that being said, I want to transition into a little bit of capital gains tax, right? It's part of what we do. We help people exit.
Sure.
So I'm curious for you, when you're helping someone exit, what have you found to be the biggest frustration, especially for high-end primary homes that doesn't qualify for a 1031? What's been the biggest frustration when you've seen for your clients when it comes to selling highly appreciated homes, especially luxury homes, and maybe not even having the 1031 option or having a good solution to sell and defer the tax?
I'm always shocked. That's a great question, but I'm always shocked when I sit down with somebody at a kitchen table and discuss their, their motivations and why they want to move and where they want to move and that they want to move, how often they don't really talk to a CPA, or they don't understand the $500,000 exemption or the $250,000 exemption, and the different options that actually entails. If you're in the military, you can get a different kind of a benefit, but oftentimes 500,000 does not cut it, and you've got the Obama tax after that, and oftentimes it really is it's a conversation they need to have with their CPA. And here it is, 2022. I kind of feel like everybody should know about that $500,000 exemption. I would say less than half of my clients have a working understanding of it. And so that's oftentimes I ask them to talk to the CPA, because I don't want to be in a transaction where they go, oh my gosh, you never told me about this, and really we're better off staying, or we're better off renting the place out, because you could rent the place out for another 3 years, as you know. It's as long as your primary residence for 2 of the last 5 years, not the last 2 years. It's 2 of the last 5 years. And oftentimes that is going to be a better fit for them to hold on, maybe be a landlord, and then, or maybe convert it into a commercial property.
Yep, very well said. And yeah, it's the 121 exclusion. If anyone's curious what what Michael's talking about there, and if you lived there 2 last 5 years for your primary, the government gives a 250 basically addition to your basis if you're single, or 500 if you're married. So let's say you bought a house for $1 million, it's worth $1.5 million. You've lived there 2 last 5 years, and you sold it at $1.5 million. You have no capital gains tax. It's one of the best strategies to use to build some wealth that's tax-free. In fact, my wife and I did it for our first house. We bought it for $135,000 at foreclosure. We sold it for 2 years later for $250,000, and it was great. And but if you do get beyond that, we do have another solution called a Deferred Sales Trust for anyone who's wondering, and it works for primary homes. In fact, we just did an $8 million deal in Palo Alto off of University Avenue, and he had bought it, and his basis was about $6 million. He had 5 kids. They're all gone. He's single now, and he's looking at a substantial about $2.3 million gain above and beyond his base, his 121 exclusion. And he's able to defer about $800,000 of tax. And so if you want to learn more about that, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. It also works for cryptocurrency businesses. You can save a failing 1031 exchange. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That being said, Michael B. Bell, you ready for the lightning round?
Sure.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you'd make sure to tell yourself to do?
Boy, I'm not prepared for this. Let me think. One golden nugget. You said when I was 25 years old?
Yeah. If you go back to your 25-year-old self and you're like, Michael B. Bell, here's what I would tell you to do. One thing to add or subtract.
Read more books, because everything's out there. Anything you want to know, and now it's all on YouTube, but I should have read more books, because I read more books now, and just a wealth of knowledge, and it's incredibly cheap.
Absolutely. There it is. Question number 2. What's the number 1 book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
I'm just reading for the second time The Go-Giver. I forgot who the author was.
Amazing book. Great book. I just reread it again for the 3rd or 4th time. Question number 3. What are you most curious about right now?
Well, I've got two boys, and we're looking at colleges, and it's a lot different even 5 years ago. But I graduated from college almost 30 years ago, so but to go through the journey with my junior who's in high school it's amazing, the college industry, the application process, and all the craziness that's happening with all of that right now. Yeah,
For sure.
it's
Let me know. I got some kids coming behind. My oldest is 12 right now, and then I got 4 below that. So I got to you take notes and let me know what you learned there. Second to last question: what's the number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
There's this Rick Rubin. I like quotes. I like little quotes. Rick Rubin is a record producer, renowned. Van Halen, my favorite band. All these, anyways. I love this one quote. It says, "Just take the first step. It doesn't matter if you're going in the right direction or not. Just take the first step."
Love it.
And yeah, just sometimes you're gonna screw up, but just take the first step and make sure you're moving.
Excellent. Last question, and we'll wrap it up. For your in your history, right? Everything you've done, people you've helped, all the clients you've helped, being the top in your industry. What's the habit you try to practice to stay centered in your values, and then also stay encouraged to charge forward to reach even higher heights?
I'm in an interesting business because you never know where your business is going to come from, and it could come from a parking attendant. It could be from, for me, I was really nice to a guy that was pumping gas, and he had an old car, and I was chit-chatting with him. Just be nice to everybody, treat everybody the same way. You never know where any of that is going to lead. I do a lot of business, and people ask me, how did I get this, that, or that listing? And oftentimes they won't believe me how I got these, just hiking in the mountains. Just be nice to, chit-chat with people. Just be of service. Be nice. As Lalo Salamanca used to say in Better Call Saul, be nice. Great show.
Go ahead. Last thought on that?
I'm sorry?
Does you have a last thought on that? Or yeah, that was it.
Just be nice.
Awesome. Fantastic. Michael B. Bell, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to encourage you to keep using your gift of leadership to lead people, to help them create and preserve more wealth in their in the sales of their houses and anything else that you're helping people with. And I want to thank you for being on the show. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
My website is michaelbbell.com. There's 2 B's in there. They can also go to sellermistakesthebook.com. And if you'd like to have a free audiobook, I'd be happy to email it to you if you're into listening to me for 3 hours.
Amazing. Thank you, Michael B. Bell. And also, I thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they can struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options, and not having a clear plan is the enemy. And using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is an amazing way for you to exit highly appreciated primary homes, businesses, real estate, cryptocurrency, eliminate the need for the 1031 exchange so you can create and preserve more wealth. If you want to learn more about that, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Talking about books as well, we do have the new book coming out with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, Building a Tax Deferred Exit Strategy. So look for that to come out here soon. And appreciate everyone listening to us also on Expert CRE Secrets. We're also streaming live too as well. Check out the YouTube channel. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe as best you can. We so appreciate